Good morning, Tempe. So, I'm at the Tempe Public Library. Today is Friday. I'm not doing interviews unless somebody wants to give an interview. But every morning that I'm here that's not a Monday, should be Wednesday and Friday. Wednesday I wasn't available because of health issues. But I'm going to walk this square in the mornings until people come up to me. People are hearing about me. It'll look ridiculous to you, I'm sure. But it's a part of homelessness. That's why. So I'm going to walk this square because while I was homeless, I knew so many people that walked a square. If you've been in prison, you know what that square means. There was a young man in iHelp, he's no longer alive, who walked a square. It kept him sane in large groups of people to walk a square. He walked a square everywhere he was. He'd be on a sidewalk walking a square. He'd be on his mat, walking his mat. Everywhere I saw this dude, he walked a square. And he was a young man. He was a really young man. And he had some mental problems. And he was incarcerated. And for his protection, he went inward. And it was probably best for him because his outward in fear probably not would have been good for anybody. So he chose inward. And he walked a square. We'd come in around 3:30 and he'd walk a square out in the churchyard. We'd get our mats out after dinner. He'd walk a square around his mat until time to go to bed. If he decided it was too loud inside of iHelp, he'd go outside and walk a square in the churchyard. That's what he did to stay sane and probably to stay safe for you and I. He walked a square. He spent his life walking a square. Yeah, it was hard for me to watch. He was a really good dude. He had some problems. And I found out he OD'd not too long ago. It's been about a year. Time is relative in homelessness. There's really no time frame, actually. In homelessness, there's no time. Anyway, I just wanted to share that because I started walking the square last week, and I didn't get to explain why. But I'm going to walk a square when I'm filling time and I feel like I want to share some thoughts. I've been talking to a friend of mine who's homeless. He's been homeless for, I believe, 12 years, sober. Ran into health issues. He used to work in government. And was hurt and ended up disabled. And he hasn't gone out for disability, and so many men don't. You have a lot of men on the streets that are disabled that don't go out to get disability because, well, they're men. You know, men are very, very, they're caretakers, man. They feel like they need to be out there doing something. And sometimes the doing something seems like doing nothing to you, but getting SSDI might be the wrong something in their mind because there's so much shame brought on it. I know so many older men that are in their, well, they're my age and above. So I'm 53, just turned 53. And I know so many men in my age bracket that are homeless, that have been homeless for literally years, minding their effing business, trying not to be seen nor heard, so ashamed of the situation and the position that they're in, don't have anybody to wrap arms around them because they tuck themselves away like they ain't trying to be seen at all. I was talking to this dude. I've been talking to him for the last couple of weeks. consistently. And we were talking about sign flipping the other day, and why he comes to Tempe to flip his sign. And I've told you guys before, people come to Tempe for safety and homelessness. Like, I just really can't say it enough. I'm going to say it every time I open my mouth, because at the end of the day, it's the truth. It's the truth. So he tucks himself away in a different city at night to stay way far away from all of us. But he comes back here to the streets of Tempe, where it's safe to flip a sign. He's not asking for money. It's not legal to ask for money. He's very clean. And he just needs a few dollars a day to get his medicine, because he's still consistently going to his doctor. He's consistently just trying to feed himself and pay his phone bill. Yeah, so flipping a sign, he was flipping a sign last week. Just says, God bless you. He's not asking for anything. He's not on private property. He's on the sidewalk. And somebody stopped and gave him some money, somebody that gives him money consistently, and he doesn't get money often. Things are tight for everybody, like, we're all aware of that, but he does need at least $12 a day to get his meds and to get at least a partial meal into his system every single day. So somebody stopped and gave him some money, and there had been a dude in the parking lot of the store that he was out in front of, just eyeballing him, just a Tempean. And as soon as this lady handed him something, he went inside to the store, security came out, and then he left. And then four police cars showed up for him. He had already crossed the street. He was going to do his business, figure out what he was going to do for his meds that day. Yeah. So Tempe has this thing now where citizens stand around and watch other citizens. And when they're doing something that doesn't look right to them, regardless of whether it's right or not, they call the police ASAP. And the police will come every time. And if this dude hadn't have gotten some kind of forewarning because security came out of the store that he was in front of, not on their property, those policemen were there to screw him up. Screw his day up, screw his scene up, screw his life up, DNR him, do not return to this spot. This public spot where you weren't doing anything illegal. 4 cruisers pulled up for dude. I don't understand that. There are some people that cannot be out with us. Hell, I'm mostly that way. I force myself out of my home. I have a service dog for the purpose of making sure I get out of my home. Not all people are like that. And if you're homeless, it's hard to have a service dog. Like, there's all sorts of things. Tempe, what are you thinking? There are words that I want to use, but I can't because they're not part of my story, my journey, or my family story or journey, so I can't even use them. I will just say there are other countries that are still paying for the crimes that they have committed against their most vulnerable by having citizens calling and quote-unquote narking out other citizens for living, for breathing, for being in your view. for trying to survive in a situation that if you found yourself here, you'd be throwing your hands up in the air going, what do I do? Because it's here to make you fall into every crack that can possibly be fallen into. Our stories are so different, and because we have combined them into one and made all homeless people look like one homeless person down at Cass, we have decided that all of us are not worthy to try to continue to live and breathe on a daily basis in any kind of safe, real way that's productive for you and for me. It's not illegal to be homeless. So what? You're putting up your ordinances. You're breaking federal law. You know it. You're hurting people. You're causing people to die. People come to Tempe for safety. Like, I really, literally cannot say that enough. If you've housed somebody in Peoria, not Peoria, not Scottsdale probably, but not Scottsdale. If you've housed somebody in Phoenix, Glendale, Mesa, AJ, they're still coming back here. This is where their peoples are. This is where their tribe is. This is where their community is. And you're having people call the police on them. And Tempe, you're okay with it. Tempeans, you're okay with it. You're sitting back and you're waiting. Dude went out without his meds because of that. He went without a meal for 2 days because of that. Going to a different spot where people don't know him. So they don't know what he's doing. They don't see his sober ass every day. They just see a homeless person standing in a new spot. And he's got coverage here. He's got arms of community wrapped around him here, knowing his situation, and have been watching out for him. And your new little tattletale website, Tempe, is hurting people. It's hurting people. It's hurting people. I just don't even know what to say about it. I stepped off my square. I'm going to go back to it. There's a few people that I can tell are waiting for me. They've come around the corner. I'm going to go chat them up. Y'all have a good day. Tempe, rethink your stance. You look like an asshole. And that's just real. You look good to the taxpayers, but they don't know what you're doing in reality. We do. We see you. You may not see or hear us, but we see and hear you. You're being a dick. Change your stance. You're hurting people. You're hurting the most vulnerable. That's on you. That's your legacy. You're the one with the legacy. You're choosing that legacy for yourself. And Tempeans, you're following suit. Just remember the most vulnerable that have been harmed by what you're doing now to people. And how we cry and wring our hands about that bullshit because it was fucked up. You're doing the same thing. And I'm not letting it go. You're being a dick to the most vulnerable in your town. That's shameful in every way. Y'all have a good day.